Hello world, welcome to the 84th climate change emergency protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, USA. It is July 17th, 2020, and as I said, it is the 84th climate change emergency protest. Presently the CO2 level is 415.1. It doesn't sound significant, but if you combine it with the equivalency with methane, the equivalency is somewhere around 585 parts per million, if not 600 parts per million. 600 parts per million is unsurvivable. There's a 15 to 20 year time lag between CO2 levels and temperature catching up. So right now we're living in the year 2000 or 2005, before the cell phones kicked in and they started being made by China. 600 parts per million is also not survivable because humans have only existed in a stable environment when the CO2 level is between 280 and 200 parts per million. So 280 is the uppermost limit, and right now it is at 600 parts per million basically after you factor in methane. Presently Death Valley was at 129 degrees, which is a ridiculous temperature. The highest temperature ever recorded on our Earth is 134 degrees. So we're really in danger here. You have, let's see, Phoenix, Arizona was 117 degrees. You had Louisiana where the heat index was 120 degrees. Here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania this weekend is going to be 97 degrees, if not 100 degrees. So we're in the middle of a giant heat wave here in the United States, and it goes all the way from Nevada all the way to the east coast of New Jersey and down to Florida and Texas and everywhere else. So it's a real big problem here, and the problem is not so much the heat as long as the grid stays up. That's a big issue, because if the grid goes down, then you don't have air conditioning, and that will happen to someone where the grid goes down. So, it's not a big deal until, you factor in that our food is manufactured, grown in the Midwest. So if it's 100 degrees, you're in real danger of losing your food supply. Right now, the Arctic is, there's a high pressure system sitting over the Arctic, and there's massive heat waves developing there, relatively speaking, to what they're used to. So it's a problem there as well, because if you end up with a blue ocean event, then, you lose your albedo. All the sun coming in at this time of year gets directed into the ocean, and it warms up. And instead of staying cool, then you have a heating ocean. The blue ocean event probably won't happen until September, if it does, up there. But what's happening is that the four seas of the Russian part of the Arctic are ice-free. And the significance of that is that there's methane hydrates underneath in the ocean bed. And if they escape to the atmosphere, we're in big trouble as far as an immediate abrupt climate change. Methane won't take long to, show its ugly head as far as heating up the environment. So it's a big issue. Recently, we had a rotational storm off the Great Lakes, which is unheard of. Usually that happens because that's down in the tropics, and you end up with rotations such as storms developing, such as a hurricane type situation. So to have rotational storms developing in the Great Lakes is very, very, very rare. Right now you have 90 degrees in the growing areas around the whole world, so it's a big problem. You end up, I'm going to propose 2 more or 3 more proposals that I'm going to add to the 4 that I did last week. In the growing areas, you could end up with a thing called a flash drought. Whereas you have just like floods, something like that, flash floods. A flash drought occurs when the entire heating pulls all the moisture out of the soil, and then the crops die almost instantly within a day or 2. And I think we're running the risk of that because the temperatures have been so high for so long. If the air conditioning grid goes down, people will die in massive amounts in the United States. We're not tough like they are in Pakistan or India. And, people tend to overheat very quickly in the United States. We're very fragile here. We think we're tough, but we like our air-conditioned cars and we like our air-conditioned houses. So that's a lot of the reason why we're out of touch as a society with the environment, because we're always running from air conditioner to air conditioner, from heat to heat. It's a very cushy life we have here, and we don't even realize how cushy we have it. So the blue ocean event versus the edges, many scientists believe that all hell breaks loose when a blue ocean event occurs in the Arctic, and with no Arctic sea ice. But I contend that the more dangerous thing going on right now is happening right now, which is the edges are warming up. And like if you go to swim in the ocean, the ocean water around the shoreline is very warm, and if you go 50 feet off the shore, it's very cold. So, you don't necessarily need a blue ocean event to cause catastrophic devastation for the whole planet. Once the methane hydrates and the permafrost melts around the edges, and also inland in the Arctic as well. It's also another hypothesis I have is that the lack of hurricanes can lead to a buildup of heat in the Caribbean and along the Atlantic coast. And hurricanes are nature's way of venting off heat. And if hurricanes are not developing, you're going to get a massive amount of heat down in the Caribbean and off the Atlantic coast. And what that can lead to is, in my mind at least, and no one's talking about this, is the possibility of a Category 6 hurricane developing. And all you need is a wave coming in off of Africa, which is not happening yet, of low pressure. And for the Category 6 to develop, and it'll probably blow itself apart and end up being a Category 5 or 4, but the idea of a Category 6 off the chart hurricane is a real possibility with the heat building up in the Caribbean. It's got to be very warm down there now, and last time I checked, it was in the 80s, if not upper 80s and 90s. So it's a real problem that you can end up with a Category 6 that can level a whole town. This guy's going to hit my car. Okay, so humans usually don't act unless there's action, and the action's happening directly in their face. Right here in the United States right now, we're having this coronavirus outbreak, and it's worse than the initial outbreak. And obviously, we need to shut everything down and start all over. We need to be economically supported by our government, who's not there for us right now, and they can't even get their own policies together. They're debating whether to wear a face mask or not, which is the idea of, are you going to stop hitting yourself in the foot with a hammer or not? It's basic science and basic child's play, and this idea of turning it into a political football is reprehensible and also a crime against humanity. And leadership that even advocates or even talks about, I don't know whether we should wear a face mask or not, should be thrown in jail. It's causing devastation throughout the whole country and eventually the whole world. You guys around the world that are listening to this will catch coronavirus because of us again. So it's not a hoax. Right now, for climate change and also coronavirus and things like that, we don't have any leaders that are in charge. They're all pussyfooting around and not willing to take the lead and lead the way through this crisis, and also this crisis of climate change. They don't talk about it. They call it a hoax, or they don't believe in it, or whatever reason they have. I'm all about, the change in administrations and everything every 4 years or 8 years. That's good. It's called a revolution through the ballot box, and you don't end up with people in the street shooting each other because the ballot box works. But if we continue with Trump for another 4 years, I guarantee you we're done as a society and the world. He has no plan to get us out of climate change at all. Now, on the other hand, Joe Biden proposed a Green New Deal type situation with $2 billion thrown at climate change over the next 4 years. That won't get us anywhere. Bernie Sanders had proposed trillion, not $4 billion, it's $4 trillion. Or $2 trillion, not even $4 trillion, $2 trillion over the next 4 years. Bernie Sanders proposed $16 trillion being thrown at it, and it's still not enough. It's a whole policy change, a whole thought process needs to change. So right now, Biden's plans are kind of like if you have to get to Denver in Colorado from here, and you're willing to settle to stopping in St. Louis. And if Denver is the point where everyone dies, and if you get beyond Denver, you survive. If you don't, you die. Well, plans to get you to St. Louis, which is halfway or a quarter way or not even a good start on the way to Denver, still end up killing you. It's not enough. It's not going to do it. And these plans are half measures and just placation of the far left, and it's not going to cut it. This idea of half extinction is called extinction, and if you do half measures, that's what you end up with, half measures, and you're still extincted. Once people go extinct and die, there's no coming back from it. So you lose a person, you don't get that person back. It's not like you can regrow a plant or something like that. You know, once a person's dead, once a society's dead, once a state is dead, once an area is dead, they're dead. They're not coming back. So that's called extinction. So we got to wrap our heads around what's happening here. And people don't even understand there's a problem. So the media is to blame for this as well as the politicians. So no one is doing their job. You know, I'm standing out here. Look at the big crowd that I have. You know, it's like, this is ridiculous. We're in a fight for our lives, and people are just waking up and watching whatever they watch on TV and not even realizing they're in a fight for their lives. This is frustrating to watch. It's sad to watch, and all I can do is sit back and go, oh well, try to do my best, and that's all we can do. You know, we're risking what's going to happen and what's going to happen, and whether it's in the next 4 years with Trump or next 6 years with Biden or whoever, it's coming, and it's coming quickly, is that we're going to end up with social collapse and governmental collapse, where they won't be there to support you when the food supply runs out. And you run the risk of roving bands of gangs, as we saw here in Gettysburg 2 weekends ago for July 4th, and that people were carrying guns and basically, you know, not overtly, but threatening people with their guns and their hands on the triggers. This is ridiculous. We got trucks everywhere. You know, we have people carrying not automatic, but AR-15s and handguns and whatnot, displaying them openly on the battlefield to protect monuments. Newsflash, the people that are on the monuments are dead. Who cares? Get over it. You know, I don't care what side, they're Confederate, Union, or whoever. Get over it. They're dead. You know, your job's to try to survive as a society and work together. You know, if you guys are so childish you can't figure out that you don't need to carry a gun everywhere, then we got a real problem as a society, and we do. So they turn that into a political issue as well. So here we are, stuck in Mickey Mouse world. It's almost like being in third grade here, you know, in the United States, and people can't get their heads out of their asses. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats. So you got to do the right thing, you know, regardless of the outcome. You know, I tend to be able to sleep at night because I know I'm trying, at least. I know I'm not doing everything I can. There's a lot more we can do, but being by yourself or with my wife, Tanya, you know, it's just, it's fruitless. You know, we could go get arrested and protest and do whatever, and no one would ever hear from us again. So what's the point of that? So you stand out here and get frustrated and vent off at what's happening, and you know, just trying to motivate people, and it's not happening. They won't budge. Voting for half measures won't get it done. You know, unless you put extreme pressure on Biden and get rid of Trump, you know, nothing's going to get done. We will die. Okay, you got 3 years to change things altogether, and then probably within 6 years we're going to have trouble surviving. So that's a guarantee, you know, give or take a couple years, but you know, it could happen earlier, it could happen a little later, but it is coming. You know, the end of life is coming, and I don't mean just humans, I mean all life on Earth. We're setting ourselves up for a Permian-type mass extinction, which is 95% of all life on Earth. Hopefully someone will survive, and something will survive, and you know, try to make it through and have some sort of microbe that will repopulate the Earth with something that's not a parasite like the humans are. So, you know, unless you're willing to lose it all, you know, and recognize the fact that we're going to die, and if we don't change things real quick, you're never going to get ahead. If you try to hoard and hang on to the very essence of this lifestyle we have, we're not going to survive. You know, we need to retool everything. Biden's plan is to not to go after fracking of oil or gas and continue on with nuclear. So that's a plan of extinction as well. So there's no real leaders that are talking about. No real leaders that are talking about what we have to do. You know, there's no one leading, essentially. This is a corporate-led campaign for president, both sides. And unless we get people who are willing to step up and mouth off and tell them they're full of shit, you know, nothing's going to happen. And we need people that are willing to do that, including reporters. You know, there's a point where you got to say the hell with the job, and you got to just go after these guys and call them out for the idiots they are, and say, you know, you guys are batshit crazy. So hopefully someone will step up and do something. You know, if you're willing to hold on to everything, you're going to lose everything. If you're willing to lose everything, you can hold on to everything. So I recommend, if you want to learn about climate change, you go to Extinction Rebellion on YouTube, Environmental Coffee House, Peter Wadhams, Peter Carter, Paul Beckwith, Sam Carena on Facebook, Patrick McNulty on Facebook, our website, Jim McHenry on Facebook. And number 85 protest will be on July 24th next week. See you then.